Hello people, today I'm going to be teaching you some crochet basics. I'll be telling you the British terminology that I know and what I think it's called in American stitches. I'm only going to be teaching you the basics of crochet in this video. So I'm going to teach you how to do a slip knot, how to do a chain, how to do a double crochet and how to do a treble. So first things first, I'm using a cotton yarn. Cotton yarn is really nice because it's soft and it's nice to crochet with. And an added bonus is that it's smooth, so it's easy to pull it out if you accidentally make a mistake. I am also using a 4mm crochet hook because 4mm crochet hooks complement double knit thickness yarn very nicely. You don't have to crochet too tightly for the stitches to be nice and tight and even. First things first, I'm going to teach you how to do a slip knot, which looks like this. It's a loop with a little line across the front, and when you turn it over you can see two bits of yarn crossing over and feeding into each other. A slip knot has a short tail which is loose and not connected to the rest of the ball of wool, and this tail which is connected to the rest of this ball of yarn. Slip knots are quite hard to get down. What I do is I put my fingers like this on the yarn and cross it over. So you can see the tail is crossing over the other end. And then because I've got these two fingers here, I can pinch the tail, and then I hold the tail with this hand as well, and I pull it through. And you should be able to pull it out very easily just by pulling the short tail. To start crocheting, you put your hook into the slip knot and tighten, but not all the way. You want a little gap, and that's how you want all of your stitches to look. This next bit is a little bit confusing. This habit will make it easier to keep the tension in your yarn and therefore have the stitches in your crocheting much more even. Hold out your left hand. Get your yarn and wrap it around your little finger. Then turn your hand the other way around and put the yarn over the back of these three fingers. Flip your hand back around and pinch the knot of the slip stitch with your middle finger and thumb. You should be able to hold everything in this hand. These two fingers are bent. This finger is also bent, but only enough to pinch this. These two fingers are bent to keep the tension on here. So it's hard to pull through, but you can pull it through. If it becomes too loose, you can pull this end. This is the bit that you need the tension on, so that you can easily pick up your yarn. If the yarn is slack, it'll be harder to grab the yarn with the hook and your stitches won't be even. One more time, round your little finger, behind those three, and pinch. And to tighten it, pull it from here. Bend these two fingers, and this finger can move around depending on how tight you want it to be. I usually tighten it while I'm grabbing and loosen it while I'm pulling. So tight and loosen it off a bit. Tight and loosen it off a bit. This first stitch that I'm showing you is called a chain. You put the hook in front of and then behind your yarn. You then turn your hook upside down so that it pulls the yarn through. Then you put it hook side up again. Underneath, turn it upside down, pull. In front, underneath, switch and pull. And there you have a chain. You can do this as many times as you need, or as many times as the pattern requires. Each of these individual V's is what we call a stitch. That is one stitch, that is another stitch, and that is another stitch. So altogether here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 stitches. I'm going to go to 15. And then I'm going to go for my first row. When you start a row, you always do a chain so that the edge doesn't pull. And when I start a row, the first row, I always go into the top loop. Or if I want it to be extra neat, I'll go through both loops. You miss this one, but you go in this one and this one. Because the back of the chains look like this, and you're going through this side and this side. So your hook is going underneath this one. And to do a double, you go in there, pull one through, and it's a double because you have 2 loops and you go through once. I'm fairly sure this stitch is the one that Americans call a single. Go through 2, and you have 2 on your hook, and you pull it through once. And it has the same V pattern as the chain does on top. I always want to be holding with my middle finger and my thumb as close as I can to the hook and the stitch which is movable without obstructing what I can do. Go into the stitch, round, out of the stitch and through. I'm going to continue to the end of the row. I always do find the first row the most difficult, even though I have been crocheting since I was 8. Now we're at the end of this row, we have this. We need to make sure that we do not pull the edges of what will eventually become a square into a triangle. So we need to make sure that we've got enough room on each side, and we do a chain. We do not go into that chain, we leave it. So we switch around, and this time it is a lot easier to crochet. What you do is you take your hook, and you'll see it has a slight point on the end, and that's so that you can push it into that gap, round, out and through. You'll see it's this gap here underneath the V, and you're only going underneath those 2 bits of yarn, round, through. There we go, finished my second row. You can see all the V's at the top. One more time, chain, turn your project around into the loop underneath the V. You've got 2 loops because it's a double, and then you pull an extra loop through. Here is what about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rows of double crochets looks like. And it's not too holey, it's not too see-through, so you can make quite a nice blanket or item of clothing out of this. You can see how straight doing a chain at the end of every row will keep the edges. The next thing I'm going to show you before I show you how to treble is how to undo this. All you do is you pull this and it comes undone. Then if you need to pick the stitch back up, all you need to do is put your hook in the loop and you're all good to go. Now this is how you finish off your rows. What you need is you need some scissors or little thread snips, and you cut your tail at the desired length, and then all you need to do is make sure you have 1 loop on your hook and you pull it through. Next, I'm going to show you how to do a treble. Again, I'm going to do a 15 chain, and to start my row, chain. But because it's a treble, I'm going to do 2 chains because it's quite a longer stitch than a double. To start a treble, I'm going to have my hook and my yarn going parallel, and then I'm going to put my hook and wrap it around as though I were doing a double and I've just gone through my stitch. Now, I go through the stitch at the end of the chain, and then I pull out a 3rd loop. So now I have 3 loops on my hook, and then I pull through once, through 2 loops, and once through the next 2 loops. I'm just going to go through the top loop of each one of this chain just to show you what that looks like. So a treble, round, in, round, out, through 2, and through 2. Round, in, round, out, through 2, through 2. This is what one row of trebles looks like. When you start the first row and you go through only the top loop of the chain, you get this almost spiral looking pattern along the bottom. And it looks like this on the other side. I'm going to do the next row now. So 2 chain, because a treble is a lot taller than a double. And I'm going to do my trebles on this side. You're going to go through this hole here at the top of the treble, round, in, round, out, through, and through. Round, in, round, out, through, and through. So it's this hole here. Can you see where those two lines go in together? This hole here. Round, in, round, out, through, and through. There we go. That's what a second row of trebles looks like. This is 5 rows of trebles. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's actually quite a lot bigger than this 10 rows of doubles. It does grow a lot faster than doubles, but it's quite a lot more holdy. So depending on what you're wanting to make, you can choose which stitch you want to use. When trebles unravel, it's quite interesting as well. You pull the same one, just takes a little bit longer for each stitch to get undone. To put your hook back in, you just put it in one of these loops. And if the stitches aren't too tight, that shouldn't be too hard. When you get to the end of your final row, you take your scissors or your thread cutters, you cut the thread, not too short because you don't want to make it too hard for yourself to sew it in, and then you pull it through the last loop and pull it tight. This is what you do in an American pattern says double, because you go through it once and twice, opposed to when Americans call this a single because you go through it once. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. It is my first video on this YouTube channel in a long time, and I hope it was helpful. I do plan to do more crocheting videos because that's the sort of thing I'm into at the moment. If you did enjoy this video, I would greatly appreciate you subscribing, commenting and liking, because engagement with this video will let more people see it. Thank you very much.